So this past weekend I was at EVO 2023, and as most of you know by now, UNI2 was announced at EVO this past weekend. And that was probably honestly the most exciting announcement from the entire weekend, at least for me personally. It was unfortunate that it didn't get like a main stage sort of announcement priority, but regardless, that aside, I did have the honor of being able to play against Kamone-san himself, the battle planner and director for the Under Night and Bird series in UNI2. I took this picture actually after playing him at the Arxes booth. Basically, they allowed for people to play against him one after another, and Arxes was streaming this on their Twitch channel. Shout outs to Cheesy for archiving this Twitch VOD, because who knows if Arxes would have been willing to upload this at all to YouTube. But yeah, regardless, let's go ahead and watch the VOD of my playing against Kamone. We'll talk about a few things because I think it's pretty interesting to see a developer play their own game and how they approach it. A lot of times you'll see developers probably not be super experienced or competent in their own game, despite having the knowledge base, of course, from the developer's perspective. But I think Kamone-san is definitely a special case where he's very skilled at his own game, execution-wise, knowledge-wise, experience-wise. I think his skills definitely match that of what would be like a high-level player in terms of the competitive scene. So it's really cool, and I'm really, like, it was really awesome to have been able to play against him. So what's going on here, I go up to the setup. Basically, I ask him, so I'm about to take out my stick, and then I see the pad on the table behind this monitor, and I ask him, do I have to play on the pad? And he's like, no, you can use the stick. And it was during this time, so I plugged in the stick, get it set up, and I think he mentioned, like, I wanted to get the Chamba 2 drone, or Chamba drone 2. That's he mentioned that he wanted to get it, so yeah. But yeah, it's worth noting that Kamone is playing on pad during this, so it's sort of a handicap somewhat. But trust me, like, he's still able to pull off everything that he would normally pull off, which I think is very impressive considering that he normally plays on stick. And he played Vatista, mind you. I don't think he had it in mind initially, but it was maybe like a counter pick of some sort. I don't know. But yeah. So into the match we went. So I'll pause a few times and talk about a few things, but I do want to keep it relatively continuous. So like I missed all of my DP punishes, or flash kick punishes, whatever you want to call them. But it's worth noting here, like, if you haven't already been catching some of the footage that's been posted on YouTube, I've been a little late on it, of course, because I had to come back from EVO and then do some chores, get some rest, all of that. Did a long stream yesterday too. But regardless, as you'll note, like, from this interaction here, Vatista is now counter hittable. And this was an A normal. I used 2A to counter hit Vatista here. Of course, Kamone himself pressed 5A, so, you know, the only change there is that A normals can counter hit with regards to how that hit. But Vatista can be counter hit. The fact that that can be done at all, I think, is going to be a very huge deal. Before, you had to have specific punish combos against her, because, you know, you can't get your counter hit hit stun deterioration improvement. But now you can get that, plus the fact that you're able to counter hit her in general does mean that your trades are not going to be immediately unfavored against her. So I think that's going to be a huge deal going into this new version of the game. But another thing worth noting, I won't pause for this, but Vatista's gems are now destroyable with any normal. Before, they weren't destroyable at all, but now you can destroy them with any normal. And it seems to be a change across the entire cast that you can destroy objects placed on the stage with A normals. That would include Ozzy's that would include Ozzy himself, which is Chaos's puppet of sorts. But yeah, as you can see, Vatista got this new move here. This like little some people call it disco ball. Basically, it's like a Marvel vs. Capcom assist, in my opinion. It just shoots out rain twice, and honestly, it feels like it unlocks the potential for 2 mix-ups, which entails 50-50 for Vatista potentially. I think this move is going to be pretty nasty in the hands of the right player. Of course, used in this situation, I didn't have to sit and block here, but I had no clue what it did. So naturally the instinct is to respect it and see what happens from there. But yeah, yeah, his reaction. When I first saw it, because this is my first time seeing it, I was like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Wow." But yeah, there were a couple of occasions where he was talking about playing. Nothing, nothing grimy or anything. Like it was all fun and games. It was chill, and the translator was translating certain things that he would say in Japanese. I think into the second and third games, because we played a first to two set, he started talking like a little less, and because he was like, like I actually have to use a little bit more of my power to win, something like that. It was pretty funny. But again, he meant no harm by saying that. Yeah. So another thing about this that's new, Nanase got a new move. It's 22x, and it's literally Milia's tandem top. When I do it here, I do the A version, and the A version is safe on block from what we tested during the demo setups at EVO. It's at worst -3. It's probably lower, but we can't confirm that for sure until we do some more targeted testing. But what's for certain is that it's safe, and the fact that it pushes the opponent away means that you can actually go for some pretty cool whiff punishes at the right spacings, especially in this situation. I could have done like a jump or an assault to go over the 2C. But here I was trying to walk back and play footsies, which, Kamone was very present in mind of and went for a 2C to catch my legs.
Using any conventional game engine such as Unity or Unreal. Rather, we're using an in-house proprietary engine, and we've been tuning that up to use.
There's also, I won't pause for this again, but I don't know if it came up in this particular set, but okay, I guess that came up, so we'll talk about that. So Creeping Edge. Creeping Edge is the new move that every character in the cast is going to have. It's a universal mechanic. It's basically like a KOF roll. As far as we understand, it's frame 1 strike invincible, and it's strike invincible for a certain amount of time until the tail end of it. And during the time that it's invincible, if you successfully pass through anything, then you'll gain some grid. However, if you don't pass through anything, then you'll lose grid. So it's like there's a trade-off there, and at any point you can be thrown out of it because it's not throw invincible whatsoever. And if you're thrown, then you get grid broken. So there's a huge risk associated with it. On top of the fact that there's a lot of recovery on it. As you can see, like I kind of did it randomly in neutral just to show it. And I probably could have been punished the last, but Kamone did a flash kick, so it's pretty hard to punish on demand. And there's a shield punish against Vatista's B, whatever you want to call it, B drill. There we go. For a second, forgot what it was called. Now the hurt box doesn't extend that much for Nanase's 2-2A. It's just that Vatista's flash kick just has like a very crazy hitbox. And for those of you that would like to watch this on your own, the VOD is available on Cheesy's channel, and of course the original source being Arc System Works Twitch. I'll put both of those links in the description. But yeah, there's not much going on in the rest of this first game except for like some Oki setup involving the new Nanase move, and I think there's definitely going to be a lot of exploration available for that.
You gotta limit your frame amount of frames, but that's not the case today.
So yeah, this is a cool confirm done off of 22C, showing the potential it has for combos and pressure, because it is plus on block on the way back, but there is also a gap in between the first and second part. So this was pretty crazy, but fortunately blocked it. But yeah, Yeah,
against this player.
yeah. They're just talking about like Kamone is playing on pad. That is actually very important to note. It's not like some small detail.
Oh yeah, for this Vatista of this iteration, it'll be really much easier to be used by newcomers.
So Kamone wanted to emphasize as well that Vatista will be easier in this iteration. I'm not sure exactly in what way, but that seems to have been
It's easier to
the
use, and
intent.
you might be able to do these kind of techniques.
Yeah, and then this is pretty funny. So there I just said like nice one, and he's like, yep. You know, because he did the disco ball chain shift, and that allowed for him to bait me into pressing a button, because it doesn't go away when Vatista blocks, but I'm sure it goes away if you like try to throw her.
Reiterate,
So
has a simultaneous
okay, here's one thing to note here for sure. You'll notice that Kamone throw techs me as soon as he's about to win the cycle, and that allows him to get 6 grid blocks. So once the cycle is won, right about here, you can see that Kamone has over 6 grid blocks, but in order to explain what, or in order to illustrate what I'm about to say, it doesn't, you know, you don't have to have more than 6 grid blocks for this. But basically, if you win the cycle with 6 or more grid blocks, you immediately get 12 grid blocks upon the cycle changing. And you can see like there's the cut in. The cut in always happens for winning Vorpal now, and of course you'll see the indicators on the side for that. But now you see the indicator called Celestial, and that's the name of this mechanic. Basically, it is it just allows you to get your full grid blocks if you win the cycle with 6 or more grid blocks. I think this is to incentivize better cycle management in neutral, as opposed to, you know, going for like risky throws sometimes. I mean, sometimes, of course, if you go for the throw and it works, that's really nice. But cycle management has to be a lot more of something that you incorporate into your game throughout every component of Under Night and Birth, now that something like this is available. And having 12 grid blocks and CSing gives you immediately 200 meter. It could give you more, in fact, but it gives you at minimum 200 meter. It can give you more if you spend meter during that CS transition state. I think it's called transfer state. But yeah, it's worth noting that, because that will probably be a big deal for UNI2. So there I guard thrusted. Guard thrust is on a different input now. It kind of works the same as it did in UNICLR and before, but it costs only 100 meter now. It doesn't require Vorpal. It doesn't grid break you. It doesn't remove your Vorpal. It does remove grid. So as you saw there, if you have some grid, it'll remove some of it. I don't remember exactly how much grid it removes, but the input for it now is 6 ABC. 6 ABC. So the important part about that is if you wanted to, let's say, do a VO in blocks done, you know, you just have to wait for the blocks to end and then press ABC, right? But if you want to do guard thrust, which you have to do during blocks done, and the blocks then ends, then you'll get VO instead, which in some cases could be better anyway. So it's just worth mentioning that to, you know, understand why it's so significant. They changed the input to something like 6 ABC rather than what it was before, which is 2 and 4D. And honestly, 2 and 4D was kind of a weird input for it anyway, because it always felt finicky to get out properly. I felt personally I would always get green shield, or I would always get concentrate instead of what I actually wanted, which was guard thrust. Not to mention how painful it is to use guard thrust in many cases, because the invincibility, while long, is not helped by the fact that the startup is also long. Means that it's so easy to bait and punish, and then you're grid broken, or you know, you lose your Vorpal, which is just hugely painful. So there, I whiffed the Nanase sword card thrust, and probably could have punished Kamone's roll, but just didn't react in time. There are a lot of like small things that definitely will be noteworthy going into the early meta of UNI2, which, let's be honest, early on things will probably look very similar to the way UNICLR is played right now. But, you know, in this set, both Kamone and I are, you know, trying our best to show off the new things. Obviously, Kamone is going to have more knowledge because he's the developer. But regardless, the things that are showcased here are, you know, hopefully representative of what new things you can do in UNI2. I will say this matchup will probably still be as painful as it was before for Nanase, but thankfully, at least you can destroy the gems, and that's universal. So that's going to help a lot, no matter what. Yeah, this was sick. This was a sick moment from Kamone. It's like, yeah, you got those. And this was funny. Notice how I stood up and did a throw there. I think I was crouching. You can actually, like when you crouch check now with one A plus D at the same time, you actually get throw instead of crouch shield. So in order to get crouch shield with the crouch check OS, you have to plink between D and A instead of pressing it at the same time. And there, that was also a nice moment with Kamone's forward jump air shield to catch my Assault J increase 2C.
All the players really, really good, so I'm having a hard time right now. Defense is good.
Yeah, Kamone there was saying that in the after the previous round, he was saying like the other play is really good, so I'm having a hard time right now. His defense is really good. I think he said that you know, to indicate like he has to use like a lot more Vatista tricks, which honestly was not a bad thing because the whole point of streams and booths like this is for showcasing stuff. Speaking of showcasing stuff, this was probably my favorite moment of mine personally. So Swordcar A Thrust is one of my favorite CS into options just because of the effect that you get after CS, which basically you see this little wind like gust, I guess you can call it, that's going horizontally. This actually pushes the opponent in the direction that you did the thrust. So in this case, if we rewind a bit earlier, I did the thrust going into the horizontal direction towards the right, and Vatista is going to be pushed in that direction for a number of frames. In fact, it's quite a while typically. Vatista is obviously about to win the cycle, right? But that's not like as much of significance there. Importantly is like I walk forward a few frames just to let the block stun expire. Note how Vatista still turned towards this way, although it's not a huge deal because she's still in block stun anyway, right? But the minute the block stun ends, you'll notice that she turns around, and the walking forward that I do in the frames before that are just to let the block stun expire, right? So then I start jumping. Vatista is still in block stun, but now she's no longer in block stun as I'm in the air, right? I jump over Vatista. Kamone turns around because I'm on the other side with regards to collision boxes, and that's when he inputs flash kick. So I guess unfortunate timing for him, but also, you know, if you're doing reversal flash kick, you're gonna do it the moment that there's like an overhead coming, right? But in this case, I do the B fireball, which hops Nanase slightly forward, and because of that, I'm allowed to dodge the hitbox of a flash kick, I think this was. And this is a great way that Nanase can bait Vatista flash kicks after doing sword card thrust CS. So I think that's a great moment, and that hasn't changed at all from UNICLR into UNI2. Like you can still do this in UNICLR. But another funny moment is that, you know, this is just like natural game sense that carries over from UNICLR. I went for a VO ender, like the Vorpal strip combo, and obviously it doesn't actually remove their Vorpal in UNI2. It just gives you it just removes a little bit of their grid. In fact, that's all it does. And I think Kamone like laughed a little bit. It's like, yeah, you can't do that anymore, right? Because he knows what players were doing in UNICLR and before to remove the Vorpal in this instance. On normal hit Vorpal though, or on normal hit VO, you can still remove their Vorpal, but you won't be able to do it when you combo into it. And no matter what, VO does not grid break anymore, which I think is a great change. So it's really awesome to see that they took that into account. That was definitely a less I think that was a more contentious component of the UNICLR and Unis meta was, you know, getting reversal VO'd and then, you know, someone would do it right back. And it's just like so much reward, you know, for very little done. So yeah. But yeah, so 2-2C there's a gap between those two parts, but Kamone did respect it still. Flash kick baited, but I did dash up 3C and then did EV. I tried doing dash up 3C though, but you know, my inputs were not clean. It was just funny. Wake up sword car CS. But you know, I was dropping everything here, so I definitely threw this. All right, he's doing the same disco ball CS thing, and then you have to hold it. But yeah. Yeah, I can't remember everything that was said in that moment, but basically he said about the stick that he wanted to buy the Chamba drone too. But yeah, I was saying like good games, like really good stuff, and he's like, thank you. But yeah, that was my moment when I got to play against Kamone-san himself, the battle planner and director for Under Night in Birth. Probably a once in a lifetime opportunity, so I'm really glad to have taken it and glad that it was a good time. And I think that's going to be it for this video, guys. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave, you know, the like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube algorithm nonsense that I have to say. I'll be trying to upload a bit more videos from EVO 2023 in the coming days, so look forward to them. And yeah, with that, thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.